This is Off the Edge. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. My co-host, as always, is Cam Lynch, who played in the NFL for the Buccaneers and the Rams. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review wherever you are consuming this content. And just to let you guys know what we'll be talking about today, we're really excited to dive into it because, Cam, there was a lot of great football that we saw. The Rams and 49ers, NFC West rivalry that goes back years. Just an incredible performance from both sides. I thought it was a great game overall, very competitive stuff. We saw Desmond Ridder maybe take the next step that we were really hoping for with the 2-0 Falcons. We're going to get into that. We saw a very intriguing, interesting little matchup between the Eagles and Vikings in a rematch from last year on prime time. That came down to the wire. And we also saw plenty of other games, as well as an overtime game in which the Titans took down the Chargers. Yeah. The Chargers are surprisingly 0-2. So we're excited to get into it. Insane. Before we do, just a word from our sponsors, betonline.ag, which is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting in your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. But Cam, I'll tell you right now, I had a good week of underdog fantasy, and if you guys are not playing it, man, you guys are missing out. But luckily, Cam Stradamus over here has the code there for you to use and get double your first deposit up to $100 at sign up.
Exactly. The code is OTE, Jake, and you can start playing fantasy football on Underdog Fantasy. Users will receive an 100% deposit match up to $100 if they use our promo code OTE at sign up. You can click the link in the description to get started.
Hell
today,
yeah,
Jake.
Cam. Hell yeah. I think we're off to a great start. We're rocking and rolling. So let's get into it. The Rams and the 49ers. This game was crazy. It really was. The 49ers, who are most people's, I would say at this point in the game, early on in the season, Super Bowl favorite. The way they went into Pittsburgh, cross-country trip, week one, notoriously, Kyle Shanahan struggles in week one games, but they kicked the Steelers in the mouth and then some. However, in this one, the Rams fought back, and they actually were looking at a potential win in this one. A Rams team that some people thought were going to be tanking for Caleb Williams all of a sudden looks as good as, maybe you and I advertised, but better than most people advertised.
Yeah, Jake, I will say the Rams almost had it. I would see clips and different things. The Rams and the 49ers, the stat sheet, it's all looking similar. But what I will say, Jake, is the start of the game, the end of the half, the end of the second half, Jake, the Rams had 2 penalties and the 49ers ended up scoring, tying it up at the half when the Rams were up. And then towards the end of the game as well, things got away a little bit. And so, Jake, the Rams are this close, but there are certain things that I want to talk about here. We can cover this on Bleav in Rams as well, but there are certain things that the Rams have to clean up, Jake, before they can beat the 49ers, who we think couldn't make it to the Super Bowl and a long way.
No, I absolutely agree with you, and I think just going right into it, we have to mention the fact that the Rams defense, which is paying, this team's paying $75 million to players that aren't on the roster, Cam, as we've touched on. But this defense got rid of Jalen Ramsey, got rid of Leonard Floyd, got rid of Bobby Wagner, got rid of Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott's gone, and Troy Hill's gone. And those are all guys that started last year. And when you look at what they did in the first game, holding the Seahawks to 12 yards and a first down. And then you look at the second game here against Brock Purdy, who's thrown 2 touchdowns in every game. They slowed down Brock Purdy. I understand he was 17-25. He didn't make too many mistakes, and people are saying that they didn't get enough pressure on him, which you could say that's fair. But I would say that was the game plan, Cam, because I think the whole point of it was to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. And they didn't trust Purdy down the stretch. It was every play was to Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Go back and watch it. Aside from that one catch for Juwan Jennings, Every other play was Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey.
It was. And Jake, one thing I will say, I know we're covering the Rams for a little bit here, but what I will say, if you want to beat the Rams, get on their edge, get on their edges, get on the edge of their defense. Their anchors weren't strong enough, Jake. And we've been talking about this, is when it comes to defensive line, the anchor is very important. There will be many a times where Byron Young and our guy Hoyt were out in pass coverage, Jake. And mind you, when they're in pass coverage, they're figuring out where the zone's at, who do I cover? Then when they go down to play defensive end, they forget about their simple rules: cut back, boot, and reverse. And there's many times where Deebo Samuels got on the edge of the Rams on the reverse because Hoyt was too far inside. But I get it, though, Jake, right? The guy's covering people, as a curl flat player. He's playing defensive end. That's one thing I would love for Raheem Morris to get out of that damn playbook, Jake, right? Is if I'm another team, if I see Young dropping back or if I see Hoyt dropping back, I'm throwing right at him. And you can see in that game, Jake, where there's a lot of times where they drop back, they'll drop back as a hook player, and they don't really know what a hook player means to be. And Purdy is just dropping it right on top of them because they're dropping only 5 yards when they need to drop 5 to 10. So you can see I'm a little bit adamant about this because these defensive ends are playing linebacker and they're getting toasted. So, yeah, man, it was a little frustrating to see. But, yeah, the 49ers ended up pulling it off because they got on the edges of the Rams.
And I thought
defense.
The offensive line showed you they're it. Until Nopum went down with an injury, that offensive line was not falling down, not like last year. And so, I thought Stafford, and Sean McVay covered this on his coach show, but Matthew Stafford at the end of the day is going to finish with a touchdown, 2 interceptions in this game. It doesn't tell the full story. He had, unfortunately, a tip pass that went right into, Kyren Williams' shoulder pad, went up, and of course it went right into a Niner defender's arms. And then, of course, you look at, what he was able to do throughout the game, bouncing back from that, and then the Van Jefferson. I don't know if it was a bad, miscommunication, a bad route, didn't get enough depth, but, unfortunately it did lead to an interception. However, Puka Nacua, the guy that you came out on multiple shows and have said that he is going to be Cooper Kupp Jr., he looks like that right now. 15 catches, 147 yards with an oblique strain that he was dealing with. Not easy. Tutu Atwell gets in the frame there, going over 70 yards there. He looked really good, catching everything thrown his way. So this Rams team, I think the highlight of this week, is that are the Rams back? And are the 49ers the best team in all of football? And I think one can say that both of those can exist. I think the 49ers, hats off to them. That defense, when they were able to pin their ears back and just go all out, with a blitzer, whether that was Warner or Dre Greenlaw, they were teeing off on Stafford.
Yeah, they were, Jake. And I think you said it before. I think I might have been a tweet or something that I've seen, but the Rams, similar to baseball, right? Every time you have someone go at bat, right, versus a pitcher, that first guy is going to expose the pitcher, right? He's going to show different things. He's going to hit some stuff, and other guys behind him be like, whoa, wait a minute. I saw that pitch. I saw that hit, right? And so you mentioned it. I think the Rams have opened things up for other teams that are playing the 49ers, so I think that's important. And one thing I do like about the Rams, Jake, is their offensive play calling. It's like a breath of fresh air. You're finding those small crossing routes, right, where Puka Nacua is catching the ball. And we talked about this. For the Rams to do well, they're going to have to attack the interior of that defense because those linebackers are too good. And so what the Rams did is they bunched up that set a little bit. They had crossing routes. They had guys leading out. And I think that was really effective in the first half. It's just unfortunate second half, Deebo went off, Christian McCaffrey went off.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me because Kyren Williams, who is a fifth rounder, who everyone just deems as a scat back. I think people forget how many historic running backs have been in this league that have been under the size of 5'10". Size is not a skill. And Kyren Williams is leading all running backs in touchdowns from scrimmage. He's been the reason why this team is tied for the best team in the red zone this year. This offense is the best red zone offense, tied for it. And that's unheard of, really. It's always been Sean McVay's Achilles heel, but I think this year, I love the play calling, like you said. Ironically, 2 weeks through the receivers have gone off. Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua, and we'll move on to the next game. But Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua have combined for the most wide receiver yards of any duo in the National Football League. Not something you were probably expecting to hear coming out of week 2 before the season started and Kupp was on IR.
Yeah, not at all, Jake. I know we have to talk about other teams here, but I just want to talk about this as we think about these other teams. The running back room, what that looks like. You just talked about our guy Kyron leading the NFL in red zone efficiency. You talk about in getting into the end zone, but I think about Austin Eckler. I'm seeing an ankle injury, right? I'm seeing Saquon Barkley. I'm seeing the ankle injury and the value of running backs.
Nick Chubb last night.
Like.
Our prayers are out to Nick Chubb. That was so hard to watch. I think shout out to ABC for not showing that again. I know they showed one angle. I don't think they realized how bad it was until they showed it, and they're like, okay, we're not showing that again. That was bad.
Yeah,
and I feel for him because that was the same knee that he did that damage to in Georgia. And he's just been an inspiration to come back from just such a nasty injury that normally means the end of your career before it starts. He came back and still became one of the best players in football.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well talk about the Browns at this point, right, Jake? But no, I mean, talking about Nick Chubb, his ability to play football, it is sad to see. And what I do think, Jake, is you think about this, it is tough to see, right? These big injuries like Aaron Rodgers, Chubb, like a lot of these staple players for these teams are out. And I think one positive about it, though, just as at the running back position, is the Browns are going to figure out how valuable these running backs are. I think the Giants are going to figure out how valuable Saquon is, the Colts as well. And they're going to be like, man, we didn't want to pay these guys. The Chargers, too. The Chargers lost to the Titans, and they're missing someone, which is Austin Eckler. And I think they're going to realize we have to protect them, number one, make sure they're healthy. And number two, we got to pay these guys. We got to pay these guys. They are getting hurt at a high clip, but they're super valuable for our team, i.e. the Chargers and Titans.
And here's the thing. If you want to say, oh, well, they have a lesser shelf life, right? Then don't pay them as long, but you got to at least you got to pay them. I mean, it's going to be a position that will go extinct in wide receivers. I've already seen it with, obviously Deebo Samuel and, Cordarrelle Patterson, who's now listed as the Joker. Like that was kind of the whole, thing there with the Falcons. But in addition to that, I don't know if you saw Laviska Shenault, come out of the backfield last night, which by the way, he looks like a running back. Just move him there. All right. If you're not going to use him, just move him there. Yeah. But
what do they call them? Wide backs, I guess, like wide receivers, running back.
I don't at all, at all, but it is what it is. Think about this, though. We talk about running backs. There's a lot of good running backs in the game we're about to talk about. The Falcons and Packers. You talk about Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones was out. So here's what I saw in this game, okay? Desmond Ridder started this game off like Desmond Ridder always does. Very, very conservative, right? Doesn't want to go down the field, doesn't want to utilize. I mean, this guy is every weapon imaginable. You got Drake London, you got Mac Hollins, you got Kyle Pitts, you got Jonnu Smith, and the running backs I just mentioned, right? And a really good offensive line. So what's the deal here, Desmond? Like, I know it's in you because I watched you at Cincy, but as the game went on, Desmond Ridder got more comfortable, and he was able to lead the Falcons back in this game and scored 13 unanswered in the fourth quarter. And that is something that needs to get highlighted here because this is exactly what is going to allow a team like the Atlanta Falcons to compete and win this division. Right now, they're 2-0, and they look good if Desmond Ridder can keep going. But the problem is, can he keep going? And this was a positive step in the right direction because I'll tell you right now, Jordan Love has back-to-back 3-touchdown games and no interceptions, and he comes away with the loss in this one because Ridder didn't matter. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And Ridder stepped up when his best was required. That's when they got his best. So hats off to the Falcons. That was a huge win that a lot of people picked the Packers in.
Yeah, I picked the Packers too, Jake, right? I know A.J. Terrell, talk about Atlanta, he got his hands on the football a bit, and so I think that was big. Caden Ellis
He's
as well.
A stud.
Forcing Jordan Love.
Oh, man.
Bro, just 6 solos, tackle for loss, a sack. Like, just causing havoc, Jake. But let's talk about the real stud of the Atlanta Falcons and Bijan Robinson. I mean, you think about the Packers, Jake. Those guys are icing their ankles up or picking them back up. They're like, hey, Amazon base sales, can you just send me my ankles back in Atlanta to Green Bay, Wisconsin? Because man, Bijan just broke them off, right? And we see some of the clips that he has. We talk about running backs, talking about yards after contact, the yak. I mean, I don't even know if those guys touched him. That's how bad he shook them. But, folks didn't watch the game. Go back and check out Bijan Robinson really just putting moves on people, Jake. And we look at this. We talk about running backs, how they attack downhill. A lot of times guys like to dance, not Bijan. He is attacking the line of scrimmage, putting one foot in the ground, making a cut, and another foot in the ground and making everybody miss. So I thought that was really special. But going back to your point about Desmond Ridder, Jake, we're seeing him progress. You talked about his conservative. The week one,
I was terrified.
I was like, man. I mean, you already know Heineke's my guy. I'm chomping at the bit really for Ridder to blow it, Jake. And so it was really good for him to show up this weekend. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, it's going to look good. I mean, he had a 79% passer rating, which is okay, 19 for 32, 237 yards. Decent, but he looked a lot better this game. He got the W, which is the most
absolutely. And to your point, Bijan Robinson I think he's as advertised and maybe better. On that fourth down call, when you see them do the toss sweep, what are you thinking? Because I understand Bijan is amazing, but Arthur Smith, what are you thinking, my guy?
Inside out. You got to be inside out.
So Bijan has to run longer because the field stretches out longer if you're going with a toss sweep instead of going up the middle. I'm sorry, I'm going up the middle with Bijan Robinson on 4th and 1. This is the game right here. And what does he do?
Yeah.
He gets stopped, and then he throws a guy off and then completely jukes another guy, and now the game, the Falcons have this. And you're like, what just happened? And I have to give a shout out Jayden Reed, a guy that we highlighted during Off the Edge, like the earlier days of Off the Edge in the draft process. Yeah. Jayden Reed with 2 touchdowns. He looks like he's going to be good. Dobbs looks like they're going to be good. And Christian Watson's not even playing. So this is actually really impressive because I think the Falcons, it was a good barometer. The Falcons defense is good. And once again, we're talking about 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, Jordan Love. You love to see it.
You love it. No pun intended. You love to see it. And Jake, as I'm seeing these games unfold, to be honest, I know we said the Panthers to lead this division, but to be honest, the Falcons are looking
I had to make
nice.
the playoffs as the 7th seed. As a wild card, people are like, you had 2 teams out of the worst division in NFC. I'm like, hold your horses, man. I don't think this division's that bad.
Yeah. No, they got some ballers. And the Buccaneers put a beating on the Bears. I mean, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, and to be honest, I know the Saints played the Panthers, so we'll talk about that as well. That was a good matchup. But I do think, Jake, at this point, week 2 in, I know we got 15 more weeks to go, but the Falcons are really good.
By the way, shout out to Desmond Ridder, threw a 45-yard heave and gave Mac Hollins, big, thick Mac Hollins, we were talking about the offseason, a shot. He went up and he rewarded him, man. He went up and grabbed the ball, and you love to see that. The Eagles and Vikings, this game was bizarre, okay? This game was absolutely bizarre. So at one point or another, it's 27-14. And then we're talking about the Vikings actually having a chance to win. And there was a really, really controversial call that was made that is, by the book, correct. You had Justin Jefferson reaching out for the pylon, and the ball goes out of the back of the end zone, and it is a touchback, which by rule is the Eagles' ball. So it is a turnover. Now, you are a defensive player, and I've been sitting on this thing all week long. So I'm very excited to get your thoughts on this rule, because as a defensive player, I'm sure you have a different thought than I do, because you did play on the defense, and you'll see things a little bit differently, and you've had to earn what you've gotten on the defense. For just me, who's never played football before, I look at that rule and I hate it, because I would say this: that is the one time nowhere else on the field, if you throw the ball out of bounds, okay, and The coach on the other sideline picks it off. That team doesn't get the interception. If you don't recover the fumble inbounds, you don't deserve the possession. You don't deserve the turnover. And so for me, Cam, and I'm very curious to get your thoughts on this, but for me, is it so bad to maybe make it so, okay, he fumbled out of the back of the end zone, we'll bring it back to their own 20, but they keep the football?
Yeah, it is tough, Jake. It is tough because at the end of the day, the goal is to hold on to the football, right? At the end of the day, you gotta hold on to the football. So no matter how we cut it, if that ball is out, that means it's not yours at the end of the day. And so the rule, it feels uncomfortable, right? Because like you said, it's like it hits in the end zone, it's going back the other way for the other team. I get that, but at the end of the day, the goal for the defense is to stop the offense from carrying that football into the end zone. And technically, if it gets knocked out, the defense essentially got the ball out of their hands and stopped them from scoring. So, I mean, it is kind of crazy, Jake, but it just goes to the point. I think a lot of offensive coaches tell people, get through the finish line, run through the finish line. It's like you don't tell a sprinter like, hey, you're like start slowing down right before you get to that end mark. Like you run 10 yards past it, and so it's the same coaching point for the offensive players. Get through the end zone, finish the job, and it's hard, Jake, because you relax. You're like, oh, I'm here, ball drop, ooh, no. So it's a discipline thing.
I like this because that was not a biased answer. That was not like, I'm a defensive player, we earned that right. We earned that. No. That was like, hey, I see your point. He just at the end of the day just need to hold on to the football. I thought there was a really interesting one years ago. If you remember the Sims and Lefko show on Bleacher Report, Chris Sims said, and keep in mind, he played quarterback in the NFL. And he said, to me, defensive players are always put at a disadvantage. That is the one spot where it's like you can actually get the ball, you can actually get the ball back without actually recovering it. It's like, man, the ball falls out of bounds everywhere else, and that's fine. But this is my end zone. If you can't score, then you didn't do a good enough job, and I did. And so I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it. I still like the idea of it's still a pain. You get all the way down to the red zone, you fumble, and they put it back at your own 20. You lose all those. It's essentially an 80-yard loss. I mean, I think that's a win, right? But it's a weird rule that I'm not going to fight about. It just every time it comes up, it's like,
Yeah, high risk, high reward, Jake. It's high reward if you get there, but if you drop it there, it's like, so yeah, it's a tough spot. The red zone's a tough area.
We can't take anything away from the fact, first off, Kirk Cousins looks like one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. It's so ridiculous to me, quarterback wins in this league and quarterback losses, because there were people saying he looked mediocre. The guy threw 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. And if you look at the stats for the season, I understand it's 2 games, Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in all of football right now. And it's unfair because he gets this whole painted thing where it's like, oh, he's bad on prime time. 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's not bad in prime time, my guy. Jalen Hurts, who I swore by was going to win the MVP this year, did not look that great in prime time. And, then all of a sudden the stuff comes out about, Don McNabb talking about him and how he still has a shoulder issue. He's 70%. That I don't think he should have said, because that's how you get your team fined for not having you on the injury report. But anyway, DeAndre Swift on the Eagles is the reason they won this game, because, oh my Lord, what were the Lions doing getting rid of this guy? Can you honestly, with a straight face, tell me that DeAndre Swift and Jahmyr Gibbs wouldn't have been a better tandem than David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? DeAndre Swift is a better player. His issue has been health.
Yeah.
But David Montgomery is now dealing with health issues. And we look at DeAndre Swift. He's taken 28 carries, which we didn't see in Detroit for 175 yards and a touchdown, Cam. He could not be stopped. So then you hear the fantasy football people come out on Twitter and they're like, just give it to my guy Penny, he's better. And then Penny goes in and he does nothing behind the same offensive line. So give my man Swift some actual respect. This guy is constantly badgered. Yeah. He can't stay healthy. He can't take on a workload more than 10 carries. And here he is taking on a 28 carry workload, Cam, and leading his team to the finish line.
That's a big game. And, someone else who had a big game, Devontae Smith, Jake, he shows up each week. And a lot of times I look at him like, oh, he's going to get hurt out there. My man is looking like this iPhone, like this.
My man's looking like an iPhone.
Not like, my man is like, that's a slim guy. But one thing about him, Jake, he has it up here. I think a lot of people need to realize is this game is more mental than anything. You don't have to be built like Superman. He's the Flash, right? Super fast, stays healthy, super smart, knows where to be. And my man went off, Jake. My guy had 4 for 5, 131 yards. I mean, that's not bad at all. Another thing, though, too, I want to call out. I know everyone's talking about it, but A.J. Brown, right? A.J. Brown was a little frustrated with Jalen Hurts. And, Jake, I wonder if we see more from Jalen if he's hitting his guy, AJ, right? AJ's not really getting many receptions, not really many big plays. There was one play, I know AJ was on his back, and then after that, he threw him the ball, but it was outreach. And it was a little, you know what I mean? It was a little too far for the fingertips. So I'm hoping that Jalen connects with AJ because I'm feeling what I'm feeling in at the Bills, right? With our guy, with Allen and the brother. But, they have to connect. Because I have a feeling that if A.J. Brown is not happy this next game, Jay, he's going to be like, man, trade me, bro. This guy ain't throwing me the ball. And that might be a little too soon because they went to the Super Bowl last year. They want to go back. But I'm hoping that connection works because I think Jalen's numbers go up and we can see a better Jalen Hurts.
I'll say football. This right now. A.J.'s got to watch it because you don't want to be that guy that's down playing for his third team because he pushed himself out of 2 teams. And I do think that's something that matters in the league. You know what else is something that matters in the league when you're a rookie and you can come out and make an impact the way Jordan Addison has made an impact. We talked about Puka Nacua. Yeah. Jordan Addison's right behind him. Another touchdown, a 62-yard catch and run. TJ Hawkinson adds 2 touchdowns in this game. I mean, Justin Jefferson had 159 yards. It's so easy with him. He is just like this, it's just so natural. The game is so smooth. And then, of course, you had KJ Osborne, who I don't know, the Eagles defense forgot was on the team because he's just waiting in the end zone, knitting or whatever he was doing. And, just a simple pitch and catch, man. But no, Cousins had 125.6 passer rating. Put some respect to my guy's name. I know we lost. I know they're 0-2. They're not 0-2 because of Kirk Cousins. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and the Eagles defense too, Jake. It's a different. I think one of the announcers was saying it's a different defense. It's a different team. There's a different coordinator, different offensive coordinator. So that could be the reason for the frustration for A.J. Brown on the offensive side, and then the defensive side, allowing Kirk Cousins to go crazy like that. Like your defensive line is too good for that to happen. So the DBs. I know Justin Evans is back there. I played with Justin, super athletic kid. But I think they have to figure it out in that back end there, Jake, because I think they were getting torched by our guy Cousins, Captain Kirko. And to be honest, to be a Super Bowl contender, wanting to do that again, that's unacceptable. That's just, I know they got the W, but the DBs were getting torched. It wasn't a great night for them in that defense like that, or at least the back end. So they're going to have to tighten that up as they continue.
No, I absolutely agree with you. We move on to an AFC North matchup that maybe coming into the year we thought could be massive. Right now with Joe Burrow dealing with the unfortunate calf issue, this doesn't look like the same Bengals team. Now, to be fair, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl the year they started 0-2. So they are 0-2 yet again. They lost 27-24 to the Baltimore Ravens. I thought Lamar Jackson looked really good in this game. Was able to get it to all sorts of receivers. And unfortunately, our guy Odell Beckham Jr. left the game with an ankle, so I hope he's okay. But you saw multiple targets all over the place. You had Aguilar getting involved. You had Zay Flowers, who looks as good as you and I kind of were thinking he'd be. Mark Andrews, Odell, Rashad Bateman, Justice Hill, Isaiah Likely. He tried to get Devin Duvernay involved. He did not come away with a catch. But big Gus the Bus Edwards, now that J.K. Dobbins is done for the season, you need a guy to pick up the load. It's never been a question, is Gus able to do it? It's a question is he able to do it and stay healthy doing it? And as long as Gus Edwards stays healthy, with the ability Lamar Jackson has, and then you have Justice Hill, I know they're also interested in Cam Akers, and that's a whole thing. But you have enough diversity in that run game, because Gus Edwards runs like Jerome Bettis. So he just runs over people. You have him, you got Lamar, you got Justice Hill. That's not bad. And if Gus runs at a 6.2 yards per carry clip, I mean, this Ravens defense, this Ravens offense is going to be spooky, and the defense is going to be spooky because it's like, all right, well, you guys are keeping us off the field, and now we're ready to go and chomping at the bit. I mean, I got to tell you, aside from T. Higgins, I thought the Ravens defense looked really good. T. Higgins got in the end zone twice. Yeah. Great players make great plays, right? But, holding Jamar Chase to 31 yards on 8 targets, you'll sign up for that all day.
Yeah, no, that's pretty damn impressive, Jake, right? Like Chase, you would think like he would be the guy to keep it going and like, hey, watch out for him because he's going to put 100 up on you each game. What does that look like? You think about it too. Joe Burrow, what does that connection look like? How are things going? Joe Burrow, 27 for 41 with 222 yards. That's not bad for a strained calf, right, Jake? Of course, every time we talk about quarterback going down, who's the next man up? Jake Browning. Jake Browning's got to step up and move things forward because if not, Jake, by the time Joe Burrow gets back, whether that's 2 or 3 games from now, they could be 0 something, So, you want your backup to move things forward. I think that's so important. And I feel like a broken record, but your backup quarterback could be your quarterback for the rest of this season. You just never freaking know. And so Jake Browning, the best of luck. Find Jamar Chase when you can. T. Higgins is going off. I'm sure T. Higgins is going to be double teamed next game because, like you said, my man found the end zone twice. But I think that's going to be really important for Joe Burrow to get back healthy and this team to move things along because it's looking ugly, man. I mean, we do a preview before every game, and I pick the Bengals to not win each time. So that's a little concerning. Like you said, these past couple of years, they found their way to the championship. So they're going to have to figure it out.
And to be fair, to add context to those 0-2 season, that 0-2 season where they went to the Super Bowl game, I mean, you have to keep in mind, like Joe Burrow wasn't dealing with this right now, so this is different. And, I'll just say this. It's a good thing they picked up Will Grier. It's a good thing they threw him on the practice squad because it's now been 2 weeks. He's starting to get, acclimated with the playbook, I would imagine. You have to trot out Browning. I would look for them to potentially make a trade for Brandon Allen, who's on the 49ers, because he actually was the previous backup, has started some games with Zach, Taylor, and I think that would probably be the move that they end up making. I wouldn't be surprised. The 49ers don't need him, so I think that's the move that they'll end up making. But just want to give a hats off to Geno Stone. He was a 7th-round pick in 2020. Here he is leading the team in tackles, came away with a huge game-altering interception. Geno Stone, man, player of the game, in my opinion. He was great. We move on, though. Okay, this was the surprise of the week, in my opinion. Seahawks 37, Lions 31. Maybe it was because the Rams beat the brakes off of Seattle and you got an angry Seattle team on the road, just kind of like, man, what are we? And sometimes that's a little bit of a wake-up call before it has to be a wake-up call. And maybe you got the Lions, extra time off. Maybe you got a little rusty. It's hard, with that first game because it's like you get ready. You're on a short week essentially, but it's not a short week because you haven't started the season yet. And so you're ready. You're chomping at the bit. You're ready for Thursday night. You're kicking off the season, and it's like, wait, I don't play until next Sunday. Like,
Belly's full because you beat
Yeah,
the Super Bowl
I
champs.
don't know
Yeah.
if that call me crazy, but I don't know if I like that. I know the Rams and Bills dealt with that, and just about every team that plays on the opening night deals with that. It just feels like one of those things where on paper it sounds good to have those days off, but it can actually take you out of the competitive flow. And you as a player, you could attest to that. Like anytime, you're getting your routine together and then something like that comes up, it's like, man, what?
Yeah, no, yeah, Jake. Also, too, like think about training camp, right? Making the team for some guys, like you finally get that. Ooh, like thankfully, we're here in the NFL season, and like, oh, like all right, I'm back to it, and that can be tough. A lot of times, if there's a 17-week season, right, you want to find that bye around week 8, week 9, really midway through. I think that's big time for any team. And then I would say this too: getting a bye at the beginning of the season is probably the worst thing possible because you got to go straight through now. Like you got to go straight through. It's going to be tough. Guys get nicked up and injured. You don't have that time to all right, they're going to recover during bye week, and we're going to get them back strong and ready to go. No, you have to go all the way through. So it can be detrimental for a bye week at the beginning of the
Yes,
season.
and David Montgomery got nicked up in this one. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Unfortunately, we did find out. You dealt with this injury, so you can actually speak on it outside of football, of course. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's done for the year. He tore his pec. I feel for him.
Brutal, yeah. My pec is torn right now, and it takes some time to get back to full motion. It's a beast. One thing I do know, I heard the trainers that would help me through my PT, like, Brett Favre tore his and didn't get it repaired, and he found better throwing motion. And Jake, what I will say, whenever I put my arm behind my back, I don't really have my left hand. I don't really have much friction. When I put my right hand, it's like, up, stop there, buddy. So he might get more motion. I'm not sure if he's gonna get surgery or not, but praying for his recovery
that's such a tough one. It's tough. I mean, the Lions lost the football game at home. You had the crazy crowd. Everyone's so amped. We just beat the Chiefs, who were just in the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. And then, I mean, Goff played well. The offense looked good. They still don't look as explosive and scary as we were kind of thinking they were going to be. The defense did not. They made Geno look great, and the Rams made Geno look bad. And look, I mean, I think the one thing is they did stop Kenneth Walker from running rampant on them, although he got in the end zone twice. But I mean, that's what's going to happen when you get those premium touches. I think really this game came down to Jared Goff and that turnover late in the game. That pick six was because you have to keep in mind Goff played well up until that point, but that's a huge momentum swing.
Yeah, fourth quarter, Trey Brown taking it to the house. I mean, yeah, that has to be tough, Jake. You're looking, like you said, it was 24-21. You're down by 3. You're kind of on your side of the ball, and Trey takes the ball to the crib, and it's like, man, he was probably expecting the other cornerback to take the ball away from him, not Trey, but Devon Witherspoon. But no, man, I think you mentioned it before, right? The Seahawks overlooked the Rams. They're like, oh snap, we got the Lions coming up. They just beat the Chiefs, because I think they played that Thursday night. They beat the Chiefs. We're going to line up and get ready for the Lions, and they got smoked. The Seahawks got smoked by the Rams. So then that energy now carried over. And to be honest, Jake, it was really good to see Tyler Lockett find the end zone and seal the game, because he did not go off versus the Rams, right? And he usually goes off every game, but this game he went off, found the end zone nicely. I know DJ Metcalf did as well. The receiving the football 6 for 6, 75 yards. Tyler Lockett 8 for 10 with 59. So I'm glad he found it. Jackson Smith and Jigba 5 for 6 for 34. They found a way to win in overtime, which is good for them. But they got embarrassed week 1, Jake. So this is what we expect from a Seattle Seahawks team.
I agree with you. I mean, this is a team like you thought. That was one of your sleeper teams, and it's also a reminder. It's only week 2. So, this is Overreaction Monday, but it's Overreaction Monday tongue-in-cheek type of Overreaction Monday. We're not going in trying to overreact. Just sometimes that's just the way it is. But look, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I might be overreacting here. I didn't think they'd be this good. I really didn't. And I'll say this right now. Baker Mayfield looks really good. Like, he's not Matthew Stafford. Okay, so I definitely see why the Rams moved on, and I definitely see why he moved on. Like, I'm not going to be a backup, and he's showing you he's not a backup. PFF has him in the top 5 for quarterbacks. He threw 317 yards. He had a 9.3 average on that one. Only had 1 touchdown, but had 114.5 passer rating, 26 to 34. I mean, this is exactly what you would want to see if you're the Bucs, because the run game got going a little bit with Rachaad White, but Chase Edmonds going down hurt them and what they want to do. And I just like the way they responded. And most importantly, I love what I saw out of Mike Evans, who right now he's playing for his team. He's playing for his teammates. I don't know how much he's playing for the Buccaneers. He's playing for his teammates, though. Guy wants a deal or he wants to be traded. And I can tell you right now, 6 catches, 171 yards, and a touchdown. The league's on notice. This guy still has it.
He still has it. Mike Evans is super impressive. Jake, I went to the game this past week. It was funny because Mercedes Lewis plays for the Bears, and so we had some friends in town, went to go support him, but I'm at the Bucs, so I'm like on the field on the Bears side, and I'm like, dang, like this is my old stomping ground. So, had to take it all in. It was really nice. But Jake, for this game, it was 100 degrees out there. It said 95, but it was really 100. I had to go walk a lady to the tent because she was about to pass out. So I can imagine that this Bears team was worn the heck out, Jake. I know they were worn out because they showed it, right? The way that they played, it showed that they were worn out, right? You look to the end of the game, and the screenplay that Shaq Barrett intercepted, Levante David was like, yo, we knew they were going to run the play. And the offense, Jake, mind you, the Bears offense, and I think I texted this to you before we hop on the call, but I'm like, yo, I got smoke for the Bears offensive coordinator, because my man called the same play back-to-back towards the end of the game, and against Levante David, Jake, who's been in the league for about 12 years now. So when I played with Levante, so when it comes to screen game, bro, we sniff that out as linebackers. That's all we're looking for is the screen. And so Levante was like, yeah, we knew they were going to run that shit. Like, we already knew. And so Shaq Barrett, shout out, prayers for Shaq Barrett, what he's been going through with his daughter and everything like that. I was really glad to see him get that interception, Jake, and score, because he was like, man, I blessed it for her. That was really for her. But we talk about just the Bears. I know we talk about Justin Fields and his play and what that looks like. That's not all on him, Jake. That's not all on him. That's the offensive coordinator for the Bears, Jake, Luke Getsy. He has to do better, bro, because it felt like he just gave up.
He's not it, man.
He's
not it. We were here. No, I know you're nicer than me, but I'm just going to say it right now. He's not it. You have Justin Fields, who, at the very least, okay, Justin Fields, the one thing he did last year was run the football. He had over 1,000 yards rushing. Why is he carrying the ball 4 times for 3 yards? Like, so I mean, you gotta, if Justin Fields is going to become what Bears fans want him to be, you can't Colin Kaepernick him. Colin Kaepernick was one of the most dynamic offensive players in football when they figured it out. Like, okay, like this kid from Nevada is really good. The problem with Colin Kaepernick is that he fell victim to what the league ended up being with those running quarterbacks. RG3, the same thing. Sorry, man. We have too much invested in you. You have to be a pocket passer. And Colin couldn't do that because Colin is not a pocket passer.
It sounds like Josh Allen. It sounds like Josh Allen right now. Josh Allen trying to figure out this runner pass, jumping over people. It's
so
tough.
Like
it's
with
tough.
Justin Fields, like you got to use his best ability, which is running the ball. He is not a great passer yet. It's not to say he can't become one, but he's worried. I mean, he got sacked 6 times, lost 42 yards on those 6 sacks. That's insane. That's almost half the football field. So when you think about that, and then Baker not getting sacked at all, Baker, he's not as fast as Fields, but he's well versed in pressure. Because this guy has great pocket mobility. He's had to work at it. Not at Oklahoma necessarily, but, when he was on the Browns, for sure. And so the hope is that Getsy gets it together and starts actually using Justin Fields the way he's supposed to be used, make it a little bit easier on him. Oh, we don't have the offensive line. Draw up design runs. I mean, the fact that Justin Fields, who was getting MVP talk before the season, is looking like a total bust right now. It's not fair to Bears fans. It's not fair to Fields. And it's just not fair to the expectations, I think, that were put on this team. I mean, I had this team going 7-10, 8-9, and I thought that they were going to be fighting to the end. This team might be in the sweepstakes for Caleb Williams if they don't turn this thing around. And that is going to be a really difficult conversation to have internally, because it's like, Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields. He's a better thrower of the football. Like, it would be a no-brainer, you'd think, but at the same time, it's like, man, you're really trying to invest in this kid. You already traded away the first-round pick, the first overall pick to the Panthers. I mean, it does help knowing that, he's not exactly killing it over there right now, Bryce Young, but still, I mean, Justin Fields, he's got to step up. The offensive line has to step up. This run game can't get anything going on the ground. And the offensive coordinator has zero creativity. And I agree with you. I mean, he's using the same plays over and over again and just putting Justin Fields out there like he is a pinata.
He's making him look bad. Yeah, he's making Justin look bad, bro. And one thing I will say, a bright spot, you mentioned the running game not doing too well. Roshan had some okay carries, Jake. 4 carries for 32 yards, caught a pass for 8. I think he gave somebody a truck stick. It was funny because we were covering Roshan during the draft, right? We were like, Bijan, Roshan. Roshan is that shadow sleeper. He's a baller, but he's behind him. And I put it to my wife. I'm like, look, there's Roshan, Texas guy out there balling. And mind you, though, I'm there for the Buccaneers, but it was really cool to see Roshan get to it. And so that was a bright spot for that team. But other than that, Jake,
furthermore, did you know that Roshan is in the top 5 in running backs in pass pro according to PFF grades? I mean, look, Khalil Herbert, former KU Jayhawk, did transfer away. But still, once Jayhawk, always Jayhawk. Love Khalil.
Yeah,
Roshan needs to start, because they don't have a choice. Yeah. If Roshan is the best pass protector, Roshan needs to be in the game, because right now they can't protect Fields to save their life. It's that simple. It's full stop. Yeah. Like, he needs to be in the game.
Protect your money.
Protect your assets, because he'll be gone. Like, and what's going to happen if he gets hurt now? Why is he out there? It makes you wonder. It's like, I mean, if you're not going to use him the way he's supposed to be used, like, and I'm not trying to entirely defend Justin Fields, because I don't think he's playing good football, but they were in that game, and and I think we can take a look at the film, and he had this guy open, this guy, like I was saying off air, he had 3 guys open, and then he just ran into a sack. My man is seeing ghosts out there because he is so shell-shocked from essentially not having any time to throw. We could not have been more wrong about the Bears' offensive line, but it makes me wonder, though, because of how lackadaisical the OC has been, that maybe it's throwing off the offensive line. Maybe there's some injuries there, like Nate Davis didn't play. That's a really good guard that they got from Tennessee. So I don't know, man. I'm not out on the Bears. I'm very concerned about the Bears. I will say that. The Bucs, however, they have to be feeling great coming out of week 2, because that was a stomping. And I mean, I understand 27-17, it doesn't come off like a stomping, but in the National Football League, you win a game by 10, that's a good day.
Yeah, that's a good day, Jake. And you're right. The Bears, towards the end of the game, Jake, right? So we were out there baking in the heat, and so we ended up moving. We found somebody that happened to be in a box. Thankfully, we got some AC. Thank God. But, Jake, at first, we were like, oh, okay, the Bears are kind of out of this. But fourth quarter, Jake, we were like, oh, snap. Like, we actually have to pay attention, because these guys are actually about to do a little something here. And they just couldn't pull it off because, like you said, the lackadaisicalness of the OC, it just wasn't great to see. And the Bears need help. They need to call God. They need help, because it's not looking good. But what I will say, call God, figure it out, because that did not look good. But what I will say, though, Jake, is it's only week 2. Like you said before, I gotta bring it down a little bit, because it's only week 2. But they did find a way to finish that game somewhat strong. Just the very end, they just dropped it all. But yeah, man, the Bears, Got to pray
I
for
mean,
y'all this year.
Baker almost had 50 more QBR points than Justin Fields. That's what we're talking about, man. That's at 50 more passer rating points. So
You either teach it or you allow it, and I think that offense for the Bears, they're allowing that. And
no,
that's
and you're putting Justin Fields in a position to fail if you're not letting him run the football. And clearly, there's been a heavy emphasis on him to not run the football if he's only running 4 times in a game, because that's not even designed quarterback runs at that point. That's like, I'm running out of a sack essentially. So. We are getting down to the wire here. We did want to change up how we go about this show, because instead of hustling to the end and we want to get the best games of the week out of the way. We do have storylines, and I'll rip right through them, Cam, and then we can kind of discuss a little bit before we wrap it up here. Titans 27, Chargers 24. That game, Keenan Allen went off. But they lost. The Titans won that game. I don't know how they won that game. I don't think the Titans were great in that game, but Tannehill did make some throws that he clearly could not make in New Orleans, and that's what was the deciding factor of that one. Austin Eckler killed them. I'll tell you that right now. We like Josh Kelly and all, but he's not Austin Eckler. So then we move on. The Colts, Anthony Richardson gets hurt. Hopefully he'll be okay. I do like that they took him right out of the game because of the concussion protocol, not messing around there. Minshew leads him to a win. CJ Stroud, he looked pretty darn good, Cam. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble for anything, but the Panthers, it has to sting a little bit early on in the year. Cowboys.
Zaire Franklin for the Colts. Best linebacker in the league right now. Got to shout him out because I know, we talked about our linebackers. He wasn't on that list, and he told me about it, and he's showing it. So it's really good.
You're welcome, Colts fans. He lit a fire under Zaire's ass. But, all jokes aside, Cowboys defense just looks so dominant 2 weeks in a row. I'm still not sold on their offense. I'm not, but their defense looks really good. And poor Zach Wilson, man, the stats are going to show that he was terrible. I don't think he played that bad. The 3 interceptions, I mean, going against that defense, it's funny. Cowboys got out of harm's way with that one because on that schedule, when they had Aaron Rodgers, that's a completely different game. But hats off to the Cowboys, who are now 2-0, and the defense looks like the best in football.
Yeah, Michael Parsons, Gilmore. I mean, these guys are looking unbeatable. Like Michael Parsons at will, Jake. They're starting to compare him. Tony Romo is trying to compare him to the Aaron Donalds and stuff like that. And I think at this point, we might as well just go ahead and say it. I think this year, Jake, if he gets defensive MVP, then I think we just go ahead and put them in at least that atmosphere. LT, they're talking about LT. Like, hey, is he comparable to him? And so in a minute, I think we're going to start putting him in that atmosphere. Not the same, but just in that.
I agree. And I think we've talked about that before the season, that Parsons is the closest thing. And we've also heard that from Siciliano over on the Rams show that we do. So not out of the realm there, but the Bills look like their old selves. Big win for the Bills, just basically cleaning house on the Raiders in Buffalo. Shout out to them for finally getting James Cook involved, went over 100 yards. Kind of told you so there. The Chiefs avoid 0-2 with an ugly road win, but hey, a win is a win, and the Chiefs are not going to be 0-2. They had to earn that one against the Jaguars. That was not fun to watch. Commanders. Oh, yes.
Jake, sorry. I want to go back to the Bills really quick with the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, not -2 rushing yards, unacceptable by the offensive line there in himself. So I want to highlight that. And then Chandler Jones, praying for Chandler Jones. He's going through it right now. So hopefully he can piece things together because it's not looking good for Chandler Jones not being a part of the team right now because of the extracurricular. So praying for that guy because he went to Syracuse. So I got to look out for
I hear
guy.
you, and I've felt for him. I think people are way too focused on football right now with him and need to focus more on his actual person. It's a serious matter, but kind of wrapping this thing up, Cam, Commanders 35-33 win over the Broncos on the road. They lose on a missed 2-point conversion following converting a Hail Mary. So the Broncos literally get the Hail Mary and then they can't convert. Shocker, Russell Wilson on the slant at the goal line doesn't go in his favor there. So rookie Bryce Young, he struggled more than I think we thought he was going to. To be fair, I want to add context. His receivers, aside from Thielen, aren't getting open, and there's been some drops.
Yeah.
I think he's having a hard time, and I really don't think, I'm going to say this right now, I like Reich. I do not think he should be calling the plays over our guy Thomas Brown. I don't believe so. I think Thomas Brown would have kept the game rolling with the run game. You got Miles Sanders. He had 1,200 yards last year. Why is he not carrying the ball when you got a rookie quarterback against what I think it's fair to say, Saints got one of the best defenses in football, man. They are disgusting.
Yeah. They got some. They've always been good. You're right, Jake. I talked about this last time. The Panthers offense, it looks a little too simple for our guy Bryce. He's like, man, like this guy don't get open. He looks super comfortable in the offense, but it's not complex enough. It's not dynamic enough for him. So yeah, I agree. He's struggling a little bit. And sorry, going back to the Broncos really quick. For our guy Russell Wilson throwing that bomb, I was like, thank God they caught it, Jake, because if not, I was like, ooh, this dude is not looking good. I'm not saying not looking good, but you just needed for them to catch that Hail Mary to show like Russell is still that guy. So that was really good to see. And then Marvin Mims showing out
your guy,
big touchdown catches, 113 yards. Yeah.
And then last but not least, actually kind of least, no offense, Giants fans, you came back from 24 unanswered to stun the team that supposedly doesn't want to win a football game this year in the Arizona Cardinals. They were up 28-7. And they literally wrestled defeat out of the jaws of victory. So unbelievable stuff there. And unfortunately, the Giants won't have Saquon Barkley in all likelihood for the 49ers game. So that is going to be something else. Hopefully the Giants figure it out, man. I think Dable is an amazing coach, but right now, especially with Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator, it's math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, and also too, the running back. I'm going back to the running back piece. We started the show like this. The key running backs are out for a lot of these franchises. I'm curious to see how they do. Right? And Jake, I said a little bit earlier today. I don't know if the running backs are kind of getting together. Like, hey, do you have an ankle injury? Or is your ankle hurting? Is your ankle hurting? Okay, cool. Mine is too. We're going to sit out and show these guys. I'm not going to say it is because I know the NFLPA has a law, or the NFL has a lawsuit out against the NFLPA about some of these running backs. I don't want to dive too far into it, Jake, but what they say, the NFL is going to learn today the value about these running backs for sure.
No, I hear you. And I think the one game we didn't cover that we did kind of, but not really, the Steelers. Let's just end on this note. The Steelers defense is for real. Has been. The Browns defense is really, really good. Deshaun Watson is not a good quarterback. He is not the same guy. That team is going to struggle if they can't run the football, but hats off to Jerome Ford, who did run the football, went over 100 yards, and was the only reason the Browns had a chance of winning that game at the end. Because, man, Deshaun Watson, until the very end when they're in the 2-minute offense, looked putrid against this Steelers defense.
Yeah, I mean, we got T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, Jake, who are strip sacks to touchdowns to pick sixes. I mean, T.J. Watt, Jake, we talked about this before. People don't realize, but we talk about Parsons, but T.J. Watt, let's not forget about him. Probably the best defensive player in the league, second to Aaron Donald. So, full stop.
He's awesome. And I think Alex Highsmith, it was nice to see him get his flowers last night because that dude is a baller. The forced fumble, the pick six. I had a chance to interview him before he even came to the NFL. His dad is a Steelers fan, so it's a cool little story there. But yeah, just really cool, really happy for him, and it was a good win for the Steelers, and it was a fun week too. We saw a lot of games that were down to the wire, one possession games, fun games. We saw games that didn't make any sense that maybe we'll get more clarity in week 3, but that's going to do it. That's going to do it for week 2. We're closing the book. We're moving on to week 3. Next episode, we'll be previewing those games. But I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch. And this has been Off the Edge. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. Follow me at JK Bogan and follow Cam at Cameron Lynch 50 on Twitter. We will see you guys soon. Take care, folks. Later.